Rosalinda.
So welcome, Rosalinde, welcome, Christian. So we will, if you agree, we will admit now everyone, and we can then start the meeting. I will introduce yourself and welcome everyone. It's okay?
It's okay. Good morning, Rosalinda, Giorgio. Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay, so let's admit everyone. Good morning and welcome to all the participants and as well welcome to all the speakers to this important event today. Today it's the launch of the Europe Trade 2024 call, and we are well ahead of time because we are at the beginning of 2024. And well, all of you are here today because you would like to have an insight about this call that has been published on the 25th of January, that worth 21.7 million euros of European Union funds that are there to make an impact in the rail sector and make an impact for the best for our citizens and for our business. And with this call for proposal is quite particular as well, because we're kickstarting our new strategic synergies with the SNS joint undertaking for testing and operationally validate the new and future rail communication system. But also it's important this call because we're strengthening our work on another game changer, which is the digital automatic coupler for freight and logistics. And then finally, also we are also looking for new disruptive innovation in guided transport modes, and in particular in the Hyperloop system. So before digging into the presentation and giving the floor as well to our keynote speakers, some housekeeping. So first of all, you can see that we are only few with the camera activated. All of you are without the camera as well as without the microphone. Should you have any question, please don't hesitate to write that in the chat. We will follow up the chat, and after every presentation, we will also come back and respond to every questions. And as well, we will also ensure that this event is recorded so that it can be accessed also online afterwards. In terms of how the sessions will be organized today, after the initial opening remark and keynotes, we will dig into the technical part of the call for proposal. There will be a general explanation of the structure as well as every different presentation on the topic call. There will be also a financial presentation about the rules and as well as a legal presentation on rules and how you will need to fill in all the budgetary aspect according to the rules of Horizon Europe. And then we will end up this morning session with a matchmaking event. So a few of you have already expressed the interest to make a pitch, and I suggest everyone also to take this opportunity to listen and especially discover each other into this new call, so that you can build the best consortium to answer to our call for proposal. And please be also aware that it will be the second time that we will be putting at the availability of all of you, all of those that are interested to participate, a dedicated matchmaking digital tool that is available on our website. Just as a reminder, this digital tool is a supporting document, is not substituting the official submission in the participant portal that you will need to use to submit the project proposal. But it's a tool that is there in addition to for you to make matchmaking activities. So without further ado, I would suggest to officially open this Info Day and to ask our keynote speaker to set a bit the frame about this event. And I would like to start to introduce Rosalinde van der Vlies, Director of Clean Planet in DG RTD. Rosalinde, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you at this very exciting Info Day. And let me start by congratulating Europe's rail staff for really showing that in the joint undertaking, we are really in a high-speed train, because I think it's extremely impressive that we are having this Info Day already at this moment of the year for the 2024 work program. So really a big congratulations for all the hard work done. And very exciting 3 topics where today we will be diving deeper into. So I think this is really a very, very great achievement and very exciting to learn more about these topics in detail. Let me just give a bit of a scene setter, and I'm sure all of you have seen that earlier this week, the European Commission adopted a communication on the 2040 climate targets, which really confirms our direction of travel in the European Union, which we started with the journey of the European Green Deal. And I think this is really very, very important for the European Union, that we want to continue to show our leadership in terms of sustainability and climate action. And at the same time, from the outset, our European Green Deal has not only been our sustainability strategy, but also our growth strategy for the European Union. And it's very important that we need to make sure that we, on the one hand, continue to protect our planet, our climate and our environment, but at the same time also we need to make sure that we keep European leadership in terms of competitiveness. And this is, I think, also something that will continue to be very important also in the coming years. As you know, we are at a very exciting year this year with a lot of elections coming up, elections of the European Parliament, but also the change of the European Commission. And I think it is very important to see that on the one hand, we will continue the journey that we have started with the European Green Deal to become the first climate neutral continent in the world, but also that we will continue to emphasize the importance of strengthening the competitiveness of our European companies. And here, of course, research and innovation will continue to play a very important role, and also the rail transport sector will make a very important contribution to achieving our objectives of the European Green Deal. And I'm sure you're all aware that in the Smart and Sustainable Mobility Strategy that the Commission published in 2020, there are specific objectives with respect to high-speed rail traffic. We want to double this by 2030 and triple it by 2050. And also we want to double the rail freight traffic by 2050. So overall, we need to increase the capacity of the rail, not only the high speed and the freight, but we really want to be ensuring that rail becomes more attractive in terms of competitiveness, quality and sustainability. And I'm really happy that we have our Rail Joint Undertaking, which is the largest common program for rail research and innovation. And as I said, I think the 3 topics that have been included in the work program for this year will be very important to accelerate our pathway towards more sustainability and more competitiveness. Let me just conclude by giving 2 wishes for the future. And I think we are already very much on the pathway. But I think if we want to maximize the impact in the remaining years of implementation of the Rail Joint Undertaking, let's continue to find synergies with activities of other joint undertakings, find synergies with other programs that we can really maximize the investments and the impact. And I also think we need to connect the dots closer with deployment programs, because in the end, we need to move from research and development to also then deploying the solutions and scaling them up. So again, a big congratulations and thank you for all the hard work done. And I think we are really in a train towards a successful transition in the future. So thanks a lot and wish you a very, very interesting info day. And in particular also, I hope that in the matchmaking that will take place later today, you will find also new partners to work with and to collaborate with for a more sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rosalinde, for those really important words that you have brought forward, not only putting the importance of our activities in the broader ecosystem of transport, but also how we can really make successful outputs out of our research and our collaboration with the partners and all around Europe. And let me just also say that we needed to have this high speed for 2024 to launch the call quicker, because we have one topic that is demanding even a hyper speed, not only a high speed. So we need to keep up with the expectation. And with this, I would like also to give the floor to Christian Smith, Director for Land Transport in DG Move. Christian, the floor is yours. A lot has been said. I hope that you, and I'm sure actually that you will have something also strategically and looking into the way how we needed to implement our program to say.
Thanks a lot, Giorgio. Greetings to you and to Rosalinde and to the entire EU Rail team. Good morning to everyone on the call. I'm very happy to be with you here today for Europe's Rail Info Days. We work to do together. As mentioned by Rosalinde, our economies must be climate neutral by 2050, and we have new targets for 2040. And yet, I'm sure you all know, emissions in the transport sector are still growing. So we need solutions to realize the vision of the green transition. We're very good at setting targets and deadlines, but without innovation and research, these are empty words. So change is necessary, and that means new solutions. Of course, the joint undertaking and Shift to Rail before that is proof that you, the sector, that you are committed to this vision. Let me thank you for having kept your word and delivered the contributions that were promised. And there are results. For example, the European Digital Automatic Coupling Delivery Program. These programs actually bring together the rail sector beyond the membership of the joint undertaking to cover migration planning and deployment. 2023 was very busy, but I think we all know that 2024 will be equally challenging. Enlargement of the membership, organization of the Joint Undertakings Deployment Group, and then the work that was mentioned on new synergies, such as, for instance, in traffic management with CSR3 and Europe's Rail, or indeed the call for proposals that is being launched today. This call, as you will hear, includes a joint topic with the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking for the testing and operational validation of the next EU rail communication system. These activities will be linked and complemented by preparations for new technical specifications for interoperability under the systems pillar. So we are moving, Giorgio, towards joint undertakings. And I truly hope to see the rail and the telecommunications sectors join hands and cover new ground. It is always interesting to break the silos and work across areas and sectors. The call launched today, of course, also covers automated train control systems to optimize operations and increase capacity on the network. As many of you probably know, the rail freight sector is facing regulatory, technical, economic, commercial challenges that today keeps it, in my view, firmly below its true potential. investments in infrastructure are needed, but it also calls for a lot more digitalization and automation of operational functions and processes to make rail freight competitive with road. So here, clearly, we have a challenge, and automated train control systems are part of the solution. In closing, let me call on you to be both radical and practical in your proposal. This is not a talent show for fancy proposals on new technologies. It's about developing, testing, and implementing new systems and technologies that will give rail the role in European transport that it truly deserves, and at the same time address to the sector representatives a major boost for the global competitiveness of Europe's rail industry. This is also, of course, important work that we do together. With that, I wish you a very informative meeting today, and good luck with your proposals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christian, for these insightful words, and especially for having provided the link and a clear explanation between what are the union's goals and what is the work that Europe's rail needs to do. And yeah, thanks as well for recognizing all the hard work. And I would like to extend this recognition and my thank also to all the team of Europe's rail that has made it possible in 2023 and now in 2024. So a lot ahead of us, and Christian already said, very much important strategic synergies. And for this, I am also happy to give the floor to my colleague Elsbeth Pittori, Executive Director for the Smart Network and Services Joint Undertaking, and she will explain to us as well our partnership.
Thank you very much. Maybe if we could also move to my slides. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm Elsbeth Pittori, the Executive Director of the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking. And thank you very much, Giorgio, for the kind invitation to introduce the joint undertaking a little bit, and also more specifically the synergy call that we are launching together. So just in a nutshell, I would like to introduce the context of this synergy call, notably the mission and the opportunities between our two sectors of the Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking and EU Rail, and then give a bit of a glimpse of our 2024 work program and how the synergy call fits into it, and then maybe say a few words about the call itself, whereas more details I think will be followed later on in today's session. So the Smart Networks and the Services Joint Undertaking is a public-private partnership which is really seeking to unlock and create value from very close collaboration between the private sector, very much the research, industrial research part of the private sector, and the European Commission as the public sector. There are two main pillars of our mission. One pillar is really seeking to design, develop, and get to the standardization phase, to pre-commercial phase by 2030, 6G systems, which is a big part of our research and innovation agenda. The other pillar of our activities relates to providing strategic guidance with regard to the deployment of 5G corridors in line with the overarching policy objective to achieve uninterrupted 5G coverage alongside transport paths, be they road, rail, or waterways. These are the 5G corridors projects which are currently being funded under the CEF digital program. creating synergies, in particular in areas which are supporting the deployment of innovative solutions. It's a key objective in our respective funding documents, the so-called Single Basic Act, and this is what we are trying to do with the synergy pool. I would highlight three particular areas where we see strong synergy opportunities between the rail and telecom sectors. It is technology transition, which is really very much the objective of the synergy pool, to move towards 5G-based solutions for the rail sector, standardization, but also digital use cases such as the gigabit train, which could ultimately become the next level of having a home office, or rather a moving rail office. And also in the field of transport and logistics, where there could be really opportunities to shift from road to rail, business opportunities as well, an opportunity to contribute to the Green Deal. If we look at the next slide, please, the overarching work program. As you can see, there is the dedicated contribution to the synergy code with EU Rail with regard to FRMCS system development. Our overarching work program for 2024 represents the third call for proposals of the Smart Networks and Services joint undertaking, with a total of almost 130 million euros. And given that this is our third iteration of calls, we are looking for, in relative terms, a smaller number of projects than in previous years, but with higher TLR. I think that we can maybe move to the next slide. So in both the next slide, please. In both of our work programs, so both EU Rail and the SNSJU have launched a synergy call. It is related to the digital and automated testing and operational validation of the next EU Rail communication systems, and the total co-founding of this call, which all these details are on the next slide when the next slide arrives. So the total co-funding is 13,500,000 euros, with a modest contribution from the SNSJU of 1 million euros. But what we are expecting is actually a kind of a quite strong leverage, and a total project cost of roughly 68 million euros. The aim of the project is really to develop, validate, and test the network elements that will support the next EU Rail communication systems, which are based on 5G technology, and then ultimately to contribute to the standard specifications and to start pilot and then initial deployments in a safe operational environment. The call is running until the 7th of May, if I am not mistaken. So this is really a call to action to both communities, the rail and also the telecoms communities, to join forces and to unlock further value from cooperation that could help maintain and even further foster the already very strong leadership position that Europe has in the rail sector. Thank you very much for your attention, and we very much look forward to continue working together and unlock further value for both of our industries and ultimately to the benefit of traveling European citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elspeth. There are apparently some technical issues to move the slides, but you will, as soon as the slides will change, we will see everything, and it will be also distributed afterwards to all the participants, and also especially put available on our website for everybody to download. Thanks again for all the words that you have provided to us, but especially the fact that you are also convinced that we need to join forces, but not only the joint undertaking, the sector needs to join forces to indeed retain this leadership, as you have correctly said, in Europe. And I think it's also a matter of sovereignty that communication it's a key aspect of it. You also kind of provided already the roadmap for the future. I took already some notes about the gigabit train and other possible innovation, and especially on the 6G that you will be developing. Don't forget also for some possible rail application. So thank you very much. I don't know if we have now solved the slides movement. Apparently, yes. Okay. So we can then dive into the info call and to enter into the more technical part, if you want, of our discussion. I think at a certain point, Elspeth, you will have to leave us just to warn the participants about it. So don't be surprised. We are very, very busy, everyone. But I would like to introduce with the next slides a bit of Europe's rail as well, with its mission and vision. So we are really here to deliver a fully integrated European rail network for the citizens and business. And for this, we really needed to work on delivering solutions that provide high capacity, flexible, interoperable, multimodal, sustainable, reliable, competitive, and inclusive. So a lot of things that we need to touch upon, but we have the means in Europe's rail, both in terms of resources, but especially in terms of minds, because we have a lot of you participating in our call for proposal, and please continue to do so, because only in working together we can ensure to handle those important challenges and grasp the opportunity that we can have. In the rail system, it's also important that if we want to make a rail the everyday mobility, or if we want to make any model shift toward rails, we need to understand that rail cannot bring the people from A to B, nor goods from A to B. So collaboration is absolutely needed with the other sectors as well. And this is what we will build up together with you. If we go then to the next slides, you will see that we are very much results oriented. And I would like also you, in the approach that you have in responding to our call for proposal, to have this in mind. The first thing is that we need to meet the customer requirement. We're not just doing innovation per se. We are doing innovation that has an impact, and to have an impact, it needs to respond to the customer needs. We need to touch upon the improved performance and capacity. We are constrained in our system, obviously, by an infrastructure that is limited, it's costly to build. So whatever we can do to increase the capacity with the existing infrastructure will be all good. And then we need to reduce the cost. So don't look only to innovation about the most flagship technology that you can find, but it must be also a flagship technology at an affordable cost, not only at the purchase stage, but during the entire life cycle cost. So think really also about maintenance. And then sustainable and resilience. It's a key in this current period. Unfortunately, as you know, the entire world is facing a climate crisis, and we have the means, together with you, to address this crisis. and therefore in designing the future system, we need absolutely to take into account the resilience of it. It must be also interoperable because it's a system, and it's a system of systems. We need to ensure that the solutions that we put forward are European, it's standardized, and it's working all over Europe. We need also to make sure, again, to address the customer requirement, to be sure to have better services that links together different transport modes. And then finally, absolutely to retain the competitiveness of the supply industry in Europe, and the innovation is key for us in achieving this. So innovate. And then if you see in the next slide, I would like to show to you how our program is structured. Our program, we called it One Integrated Research and Innovation Program, based on the system view, because we want to touch upon all the elements of the system. So to ensure that the innovation you make have the most likelihood of success to happen and to have, again, an impact. And for having an impact, you need to enter into the market. So for this, we have created a system pillar. And in this system pillar, we're going to have a common view of how the future system is going to look like, what needs to be implemented, what needs to be changed in terms of standards and regulations, and in general, to remove all the technical barriers that would delay the implementation of innovation. And then also a deployment group. So a deployment group, Christian already mentioned that it will be set up in 2024. This deployment group for us is key to provide a recommendation on how we're going to implement once the innovation has reached a successful high technological readiness level in a coordinated manner across Europe, because RAIL is a system, and sometimes innovations to make their effect needs to be implemented in a systematic way, and a coordination is needed, and also not only a coordination, but a migration thinking on how we migrated from legacy system to new system, which obviously is not easy to tackle. But all our research, focused research and innovation is done in the system, in the innovation pillar, and all the activities that you will see in this call for proposal are part of the innovation pillar. We are largely having either flagship projects or exploratory research projects. Flagship projects are those where the subjects are already quite well identified and where we aim to reach a high TRL level. Exploratory research, as the name say, we needed to open it up and set the ground for the future, also for technologies that today we're not yet aware of. So if we go to the next slide, I would like to present to you how you can navigate across our documents, because a lot has been already published and done. And if you want to deep down after this info day, you have the possibility, because you can access all those documents in our website. So as Beth already said, we have a common regulation. The so-called Single Basic Act is the top of this triangle. And then Europe's Rail has also a master plan that set out the path and the vision on where we need to focus. And then we have a more structural document, which is quite a big document that set up all the activities that we need to do until 2031. So this is actually your crystal ball for the future. This is on which we are basing our call for proposal. And it is divided into the structure of the program that I have just presented to you, with the system pillar, innovation pillar, and deployment group. And then we translate this into more detailed content that we launch every year for implementing this multi-annual work program through annual calls that are put in the annual work program. And sometimes the most interesting part, at least for you, that you would like to participate in the call for proposal, is in the annex. So in the annex or our work program 2024, you can find the call text. We go to the next one. You can see that I would like to bring an important message is that our call is open to all the eligible entities in accordance to the Horizon Europe's rules. There are no additional conditions. There are specific topic conditions in accordance with the Horizon Europe's rules. But there is, in general, for you as a participant to our call, no difficulty or learning curve on top of the learning curve that you obviously need to have about participating in Horizon Europe calls. We go to the next one. You will see this call for proposal. Well, a lot has been already said. Let me remind you the deadline, 7th of May at 5 p.m. I underline 5 p.m. because we're using an IT system and also we're using rules at 7:01. Unfortunately, your proposal cannot be accepted. So make sure to submit on time. You can submit already version in advance and then you can overwrite the version. So my suggestion is for you to do this so that you have at least one submission. Then the call structure, it's also very similar to the call structure, actually the same, and the call structure in the other Horizon Europe calls. You have a sections called expected outcome. Well, this describes the expected developments that in this area or in this topic are needed. And then the scope identify which technical capabilities, which enablers we would like you to develop so that we can have a successful innovation. So it's also about innovation. So the topics have been already presented high level. We have this synergy topic with SNS. It is labeled as such, as a synergy topic in our call for proposal. It is an innovation action that usually it's at the 70% funding rate, but because this is a flagship project, in accordance also to our regulation, we have lowered the funding rate at 60% overall. So it doesn't mean that inside the consortium, you cannot have some companies having 70 or 100% of funding rate, but inside, but overall, it should be a funding rate of 60%. In addition to that, we are also asking an effort to the sector with a leverage effect up to 5 times the European Union, composed by Eurotrade and SNS contribution. It's up to you to see which leverage effect you can obtain, but this will need to be explained in the appropriate Excel file table that we have put forward. And the reason for it is because we are expecting also that there will be some industrial developments to be done in this call for proposal, and these industrial developments normally are privately funded. So if you go to the next slide, you can see also that we have indicated the expected TRL in all the area. Another ITRL is the TRL covering destination 5, which correspond to our flagship area 5, which deals with a sustainable, competitive, digital and green freight services. As I already mentioned, it will cover the digital automatic coupler. You will hear more later on, but also this as a ITRL level. And then we have the destination 7, which cover new approaches on guided transport modes that does correspond to our flagship area 7 in the multi-annual work program. And here the TRL is lower. I think there is a small mistake here that is indicated 2. We will correct it. It's TRL 4, I think. Well, in any case, we will verify it later on. But it's a research and innovation action So it will not change the fact that it's a 100% funding rate in this case for 2.3 million euros. We expect really there to have all the promoters of the Hyperloop technologies being able, hopefully, to join forces, but in any case, to have a proposal that will provide to us the industrial roadmap for this new innovation. And if you go to, another point, so that you know as well, we expect for each of those topics to finance one proposal. So the reason for it is that our budget is the sum simply of these three topics called. So this is the expectation. It doesn't mean that we can have more than one project funded, but for this to happen, we needed to have a project proposal that requests significantly less amount compared to the maximum expected EU contribution. To go to the next one. The next is a link that you will have to the research inquiry services of the European Commission for Horizon Europe, where you can contact in order to ask questions and to know how best you can fill in your project proposal form. And this is a service that we are providing to all the participants, so don't hesitate to use it. And with this, I finish my presentation. And before moving to the next one, I would like again to thank Elsbeth for her presence here, and especially for your collaboration with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now if we move to the well, maybe I can check if there is first some questions in the chat. I can see that the leverage effect. Okay, it's already replied to. Leverage effect is the financial contribution by the industry. Exactly, that's correct. So don't hesitate to ask again a question in the chat. We will reply after each presentation. And now I would like to pass the floor to the presentation in detail of the topic call to my colleague, Senior Program Manager, Lea Patiès.
Thank you, Giorgio. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me fine. Please confirm. Yes, perfect. Thank you. We'll start the series of presentation of the three topics with the first one, the synergy call with our sister GU SNS. It's already been introduced in this first session. We are looking at testing and validating the next generation of telecommunication system for railway. If you can go to the next slide, and we will enter into the first set of specificities. Here we're looking into a topic with a total value of expected EU contribution set to 13.5 million euros. And it has just been mentioned by Giorgio in the introduction of the call topics. We are also looking into a leverage effect to up to 5 times this value. Also to be noted, this topic has a lower funding rate, and it is set to 60%. And all the details can be found in the call for proposal as such, but it's important to be noted. We estimated that the topic or the action to implement this topic should last overall 30 months. This is an estimated based on the activities that should be performed, and it has been said as such in the call. Technology readiness level, we are at TRL 6.7. We're looking into testing in a relevant operational environment. I will come back to that when I describe the different work streams, but important to respect this expected TRL at the end of the project. Clear link have been mentioned in the call text, and I invite you to look in details. ClearLink have been established with the European Railway Agency, as well as with our EU Rail system pillar. The result of this action are expected to influence the regulatory framework at European level, and we should ensure the proper interaction with these bodies. Before we move on, we expect this topic to also be linked to two of our flagship projects that have been launched in 2022, FP2R2D2 and FP6 Future. And of course, this list is non-exhaustive, and we might add more during the grant agreement preparation and during the execution of the project if we see also interactions with other ongoing actions relevant for this topic. If you move on to the next slide. I will try to go as fast as I can. I will, of course, not detail the call text as such, because if you have seen our program already, it is quite detailed and it explains in all the different technical requirements that we are expecting the proposal to comply with. But I will start with workstream 1. Workstream 1 should be dedicated to the development of prototype that are conform with the 2024 version of the FRMCS specifications that are expected to be made available in the next few weeks. So we expect pre-commercial versions of equipment on board and trackside, and this should be the focus of workstream 1. Workstream 2 is obviously the actual testing. So here we want field testing. The call specifies that we want test results based on run on conventional lines, on high-speed lines, as well as on cross-border lines. Can be conventional, can be high-speed, but we need to have the action addressing those key parameters. We also want to test, well, not only voice, we want to test ETCS, we want to test ATO over ETCS, we want to test different FRMCS features, the train control monitoring system, passenger information, and mission critical data video if is also needed. So the workstream 2 details quite in detail, sorry, the different requirements. I invite you to have a look in order to make sure that the proposal is fitting what we expect. We go to the next and the final slide. Workstream 3 is obviously the validation and return on experience after the test. So here we want to have the results of the different test and data gathering that have been performed during the project, and this input should feed the migration strategy that is expected to be developed, but also should feed later and further update of the FRMCS specifications before they enter the regulatory framework and before the sector moves on to a pre-deployment and a deployment phase at European level. I hope this was as clear as I could. As I said, the call explains very well the different technical requirements, and I invite you to make sure to have them on your table as clear as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leah. I'm checking the chat for question. There is a question about how to address the leverage effect. It will be also explained later on in the financial session. So for how in practice to bring out this leverage effect in the proposal, it will be explained there. But I will explain to you the principle. It's also written in the call text itself. So I'm reading so that you have the correct wording. So the additional leverage effect is expected to be reached through either reduced co-funding rate, okay, so this could be one way, and including with possible external investments. So it can be national funding or private funding that the members of the consortium may have. And if you are entity participating, being a private members of the joint undertaking, it can also be that you bring additional in-kind contribution to the operational activities. So this is a term to say that when the members participate in our call for proposal, they need also to bring additional resources to the table. So for them, the funding rate is automatically already lower than this, the effective one. So it's an additional activity. So this is the way how you can bring it up, and then the way how you explain this additional leverage effect will have to be detailed in some dedicated Excel file. My colleague later on will explain to you this. We will create also a dedicated Q&A out of these questions, so that it will be transparently accessible, this information, to everyone. And I would suggest to go forward. And in this case, I will like to give the floor to my colleague Javier Ibanez, that as a senior program manager of Europe's Rail, will present to us the topic on destination fund.
Yep. Thank you very much, George. I hope you can also hear me well.
Yes.
Yep, thank you very much for the confirmation. Well, as Giorgio mentioned, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to be presenting today the second topic under this call, that is dealing with sustainable, competitive digital green rail freight services. If we go to the next slide, as you may already know, the objective of Destination 5 is to make rail freight more attractive through better services to the European supply chain by increasing capacity, in this case, touching upon the digital automatic coupler solutions that we are going to explain further now, improving cross-border operations, and of course, by offering a better multimodal service. In addition to these objectives, this destination is also contributing to the definition of European standards, as is also defined in the slide, as you can see. And here, as presented also before, the specific conditions for the call. In this case, the expected contribution is close to the 6 million euros, with indicative duration of the project being 2 years, and reaching a TRL level 6-7. This innovation action, as also presented by George at the beginning, is also at a lower funding rate of 60%. And as all the topics that the JU is promoting, the link, we establish, of course, the link with the ongoing projects on those related activities. In this specific call, we are expecting a TRL level 6-7. So that means, as in the previous one, we would have a technology that is demonstrated in relevant environment, and of course that the system or the prototypes demonstrations are also tested in this operational environment. If we go to the next one, please. The objectives mentioned at the beginning would have to be addressed by, of course, delivering these full digital train operations enabled by the key technologies that are dealt with in the European rail freight sector, and that will, of course, increase this productivity, the efficiency, and the quality of the services at the end. The selected proposals for funding under this destination will have or aim to have significant impacts on this decrease of time for the train formation, the decreased time for the train preparation, the increase on the reliability of freight wagons that are equipped or mounted with digital automatic couplers, and then, of course, demonstrate in these activities the interchangeability of the DAC solutions existing at the moment, by also implementing actions that will reduce at the end the handling the time to connect intermodal offers. In relation to the expected outcomes, as you can see here, and building, of course, on the results, as mentioned also at the beginning, on the results from Shift2Rail on IP5, the digital automatic coupler and the European delivery program, and of course on the results that flagship project 5 of Europe's Rail is already delivering. This call is aimed to contribute to these activities by ensuring that the pre-deployment trains are using the train functions that are supporting the DAC authorization, initiating the mix and match tests as a first step towards the interchangeability of the DAC interface A, and of course enlarge the number of wagon on board units compliant with the full digital freight train operations architecture that is also developed within FP5 Transformer in Europe's rail. In the next slide, and for the sake of time, as also mentioned before, you have all the information available in the call text, but just to summarize a bit which work streams are and the main activities these work streams are touching upon. In the first one, DAC interface A will be tested with additional proofs of concept, and then of course this testing not only for the derailment and propelling, but also on climate chambers, and then of course execute this test in operational in real scenario, so contributing to the test of these results for the standardization activities that the DAC solution will be addressing at the end. The workstream 2 touches upon mix and match tests, and of course the research and innovation action activities that are providing those first results for the interchangeability of DAC interface A will have as a final objective to be developed in the way that this match testing aims for the interchangeability of this solution on the DAC couplers. These tests will have to ensure that the interchangeability of those DAC suppliers are in place, and additional details, as mentioned, are in the call text. If we go to the next slide, and just to finalize on the last two work streams, this third work stream will deal with the hybrid coupler for mainline and shunt locomotives, and of course the technical analysis and development of the fitting solution. The flagship project that will be stemming from this innovation action should also identify the most suitable locomotive types for the technical integration of the power supply and the communication systems. So these actions should deliver a first evaluation and assessment of the technical documentation of the locomotive types that are considered, and the technical analysis and the boundaries with the aim to provide at the end a roadmap for technical integration and allow the preparation of test runs based on the activities of FP5. Finally, and to finish the presentation here, the workstream 4 is dealing with the provision of wagon on board units that will be conceived again according to the full digital freight train requirements of FP5 Transformer, and by which the different suppliers are expected to get involved and deliver the needed number of wagon on board units. So the foreseen demonstrations in operational environments at TRL level is still 7 is achieved. Just to finalize, and for the sake of time too, let me again remind you that all the information is available in the website, in the call text, and any questions you may have, we remain here at your disposal for any further clarification that might be needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Javier. You can see that both those two topics are topics that are flagship projects. So both of them is this reduction of funding rate to 60%, and especially they are complementary to the existing flagship projects. So we're really looking forward to, in your submission, that you put also the willingness to collaborate with the other ongoing projects, flagship project that we have. And now I give the floor to my colleague Judith Sander, Program Manager, and she will present to us Destination 7.
Good morning to everyone. I hope that you can also hear me. So I'm going to present to you the Destination 7. topic. So we already talked about a very high-speed solution. So this is also the call where is going to address Hyperloop. So the roadmap towards industrialization and harmonized implementable concepts. And if we go to the next slide, I would like to give you a bit of an overview. So the objective of this call is also to strengthen the collaboration of the different Hyperloop promoters in facilitating a harmonized and interoperable Hyperloop technology. So it's key for us that there is a harmonized and common view for the technology development, because having different solutions implemented in Europe or in other areas of the world might end up in difficulties when it's about interoperability. Also, the other objective of this call to complement existing mobility solutions, how Hyperloop can interconnect and interface with the existing European mobility network. So these are the key objectives of this call. And now I would like to go into the details of the specific conditions. So the expected EU contribution is 2.3 million euro. The indicative project duration is 24 months. As it was already mentioned by Giorgio, so the TRL, so the technology readiness level is 4, not 2, that's 4. So it's a technology validated in labs. And the type of action is research and innovation action. For the moment, there are no actions or and interactions identified, but this doesn't mean that the consortium cannot propose any actions and interactions with other ongoing activities. We go to the next slide. You can see that there are 2 work streams identified for this topic. So the first one is focusing on the harmonization, technical harmonization, the industry and the industrialization. Here I would like to highlight 3 main areas. So the first one is defining a common operational safety and reliability requirements, and also identifying a common architecture for Hyperloop design. Then another area which should be addressed in this work stream is the industrial roadmap, which should identify the different steps and milestones that are needed to reach a commercial implementation of Hyperloop and ensure a deployment of the technology. And then the third area is the operational scenarios and business cases to be defined in order to specify feasible routes in the European mobility network. The second work stream is more focused on the designing and the validation of the technology. So here there are 2 areas. First, the first one is developing a blueprint concept for a 1-to-1 scale demonstrator based on the architecture and the requirements coming from workstream 1. And the second area of the activities is a compatibility test for the different subsystems of the Hyperloop technology, considering the vehicle, the infrastructure, as well as the interfaces. If you go to the next slide, you can see the scope. So here in the scope, we have a more elaborated a description on the requirements. So in workstream 1, as I already mentioned, that there should be use cases defined considering passenger, freight, urban or cross-border use cases, and assigned with business cases. And this should be taken into the following areas. So how it's developing a network effect, what are the interoperability requirements, especially when we are talking about cross-border solutions, because Hyperloop should be a solution so mainly for cross-border transport, and integration with the European multimodal mobility system. The second one is, again, as mentioned, the different functional operational safety requirements need to be defined, as well as the hazards that a hazard analysis for this requirement, and the definition of defining the architecture for the Hyperloop solution. And then, as I mentioned, the industrial roadmap. In the second work stream, you can see the two areas that I have already explained in the previous slide. Here you can see the TRL levels, which I would like to highlight. So these are mandatory indications that needs to be addressed in the proposal. So for the design concept, we expect solutions with TRL2, but when we are talking about the compatibility test, these activities should reach technology readiness level 4. So you have all the details, as mentioned by my colleagues, described in the core text. And in case of any questions, we are available here, or you can also contact us, and will be answered via the official channels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. So I don't see any questions in the chat, and in a way this is good, because it means that we are quite clear on what we are explaining to you. But as Judith already said, and it's also written in the chat, don't hesitate to ask us questions also later on through the info call mailbox. And we will answer it in principle every week. Sometimes maybe it will take us a couple of weeks depending on the questions, but you will have a regular update of all the questions that will be received, and those will be anonymized and published for everybody to know the answer in our website and on the funding and the tender portal. So let me then thanks again the speakers for this presentation, and I will then end these technical sessions with a coffee break. And I would suggest that we resume as per the agenda around the 11:15, so that we have enough time later on to enter into the other sessions, and you will also have the possibility to ask us more questions. Thank you very much, and let's have a coffee break. Hello, welcome back to our info call. So now we will be starting the session that deals with legal and financial guidelines. We will see, usually there you have more questions, but let me introduce our new colleagues. So some of you that have maybe already participated in the previous info day are discovering a new face. So Ana Maria Torres, our colleague that deals with grants and legal officer in the Europe's Regional Undertaking, will guide us through all the legal requirements for you to know in order to submit a proposal. Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Giorgio. Good morning to everyone. So I will quickly present you the main rules applicable to all the proposals to the Horizon Europe program, and I will refer specifically to a few rules specific to EU-RAIL's call. Next slide, please. Where to find the 2024 EU-RAIL's call? Well, it has already been said in the Funding and Tenders portal, and of course on EU-RAIL's website under the Participant tab. Next slide, please. But before submitting your proposal, some important things to do is, first of all, registering in the participant register. Beneficiaries and affiliated entities must register there, and in order to get what we call the PIC, the Participant Identification Code, which is compulsory. And you also have to know that when you submit your proposal, there are some initial checks that we conduct in terms of exclusion, admissibility, and eligibility. So it's very important for you to check these rules in order to better prepare your proposals and, of course, to know also what are all your options available. And for the rest, you just need to follow the rules described in the call for proposals. Next slide, please. So let's start by number 1, exclusion. So we need to check whether applicants can receive EU funding. And to do that, we check the EDES database, early detection and exclusion system. And we do it in 3 moments: before the evaluation, before the award, and before the grant agreement signature. This database, EDES database, contains a list of persons and entities which simply cannot obtain any contract by EU funding. Therefore, applicants who are subject to either EU administrative sanctions or in certain exclusion situations cannot participate in Horizon Europe. These situations are, for instance, being in bankruptcy, being in breach of social security or tax obligations, being judged for grave professional misconduct or fraud or corruption, or not complying with the main obligations under another contract, another grant agreement, for instance. Applicants will also be refused if they misrepresented information required for participating or fail to supply that information, or if they were previously involved in the preparation of a call, because they are in a clear conflict of interest. Next slide, please. Another check is the admissibility check. Applicants, of course, must submit their proposals before the deadline via the funding and tenders portal. Everything's done electronically. There is no more paper since long time. Applications must be complete, must be accessible, readable, printable, and must contain a dissemination and exploitation plan, including communication activities, and applications must correspond to the page limit. And here there is a specific rule for EU-Rail call, because we differ from the page limit of Horizon Europe, the general rule. And in our case, in EU-Rail's call, so we have a page limit of 70 pages for research and innovation actions, and 120 pages for innovation actions. This refers to part B, where you have the description of the project, the technical description. Next slide, please. And the third important thing that we need to check is the eligibility. Are your applications eligible to participate and to receive funding? These are 2 different aspects. So in order to be able to receive funding, you not only have to be eligible to participate, you also have to be an applicant, a legal entity established in an EU member state. First situation, EU member state, including the autonomous regions, of course, and overseas countries and territories linked to EU member states. Your applicants must be established can also be established in non-EU countries. For instance, in countries associated to Horizon Europe, we call them associated countries. They can also be established in low and middle income countries, and in other countries when this is announced in the call, or exceptionally if their participation is considered essential. And we also have some specific cases. For instance, applicants can also be EU bodies if provided in their Establishment Act, or international organizations, international European research organizations, who are also eligible for funding. Other international organizations, it depends on the case, they can exceptionally be also eligible for funding, or just eligible to participate. Applicants from any of these countries listed here, they can apply as beneficiaries or affiliated entities. Next slide, please. So let's focus on the case of associated countries, because here you have a list of 18 associated countries. These are the countries that signed already association agreements with the EU.
to be able to participate in the Horizon Europe program. And you can see that the last one on the list is United Kingdom. And actually, it is the country that just joined, let's say, that, whose association agreement entered into force on the 1st of January this year, which means that from now on, the applicants from the United Kingdom, they can submit their proposals as beneficiaries or affiliated entities, provided, of course, that the call implements 2024 budget, which is the case for EU-Rail call this year, of course. And then, by virtue of what we call the transitional arrangements, an applicant or legal entity which is based in a third country, officially still candidate for association to Horizon Europe, is also eligible for funding. Actually, they will be treated as an associated country, as if they had already signed the association agreement with the EU to be able to participate in Horizon Europe, provided that the association agreement with that country applies at the time of the signature of the grant agreement. So when the moment arrives, then we would need to check whether the association agreement is still applicable or not. This is the case at the moment with for Morocco and Canada. Next slide, please. And as I said before, another aspect of eligibility is the eligibility to participate only. In other words, you are not eligible for funding, but you can still participate in a proposal to be funded by Horizon Europe. This is the case of the non-associated third countries, because actually the possibility to participate in Horizon Europe is quite broad, because any legal entity, regardless of its place of establishment, including legal entities or international organizations from non-associated third countries, are eligible to participate. Some of them will also be eligible for funding, others not, but at least they are eligible to participate. This is the case, for instance, of Switzerland. Switzerland doesn't intend, or is not in a situation of, let's say, it doesn't intend to join the Horizon Europe program, so they could only participate in a proposal as associated partner. No transitional arrangement applies to Switzerland. There is an important exception to the eligibility to participate, which is that if entities are established in countries which are subject to EU restrictive measures, they cannot participate. They are not eligible to participate in any form, in any role in Horizon Europe. Next slide, please. Still in eligibility, there is an eligibility criterion, which is the Gender Equality Plan. This plan is compulsory for public bodies, higher education establishments, and research organizations from member states and associated countries. It must cover various aspects related to publication, resources, data collection and monitoring, sex, gender, disaggregated data on personnel, and annual reporting based on indicators, and training. Applicants will have to do a self-declaration. Applicants who are public bodies, higher education establishments, and so on, will have to do self-declaration when submitting their proposal. And this plan will be, required, that it must be ready before the signature of the grant agreement. Next slide, please. Another important eligibility criterion is the need to form a consortium of applicants. There must be at least one legal entity established in an EU member state, and at least two other legal entities established either in a different EU member state or in an associated country. So minimum three legal entities in 3 different countries eligible for funding. These legal entities must be independent from each other. This is very important. And to be noted that affiliated entities, as they do not sign the grant agreement, they do not count for this minimum eligibility criteria. Next slide, please. And how can you participate in a consortium where there are different roles? You can have different roles. We mentioned some of them. So the main one, of course, is as a beneficiary, but you can also participate as an affiliated entity, as an associated partner. We also mentioned, in particular this case, associated partners, subcontractors, or third party providing contributions. The beneficiary signs the contract and is responsible before the granting authority. Of course, it has all rights and obligations. And the affiliated entities, actually, they are linked either legally or capital link with the beneficiary. And they also do the work as beneficiaries, and they also can declare costs equally. They have the same rights and obligations. And then as associated partner, you can do part of the work, but you cannot declare costs. As a subcontractor, you do work, of course, and you are linked to a beneficiary, and you send your invoices to the beneficiary, who will then declare those invoices. And as third party providing contributions, you don't work, you just provide or give input contributions. And the beneficiary can also declare the cost of those contributions. Next slide, please. Let's have a look at the structure of a proposal for any Horizon Europe call or procedure. There is a part A and a part B. Part A deals with the administrative information and with the budget, and part B with the technical description of the project. And here you can see that there are some new parts, new elements, new items on part B, new items on part B. But this is comparing to the previous program, H2020, for those of you who had some experience in preparing proposals under H2020. So you can see that what is new in Horizon Europe for part A is what I already mentioned, the self-declaration on gender equality plan. And I would like also to highlight that there are some parts which moved from part B to part A, ethics self-assessment and security questionnaire. I will briefly present them later. And then what is new in part B, so mainly new glossary of terms, the consistency on the use of terminology to ensure that our project faces explanations on what exactly should be included in each section, etc. So let's have a look now at ethics self-assessment on the next slide, please. Of course, all EU-funded activities must comply with fundamental ethical principles and legislation. An ethics review process is carried out systematically for all proposals to Horizon Europe based on a self-assessment that you need to do, you need to complete, to include in your proposal. And all projects involving ethics issues will have to go on ethics review to be able to obtain funding. And therefore, they may be subject to ethics requirements, which will then be transformed into deliverables in the grant agreement. Next slide, please. And the second self-assessment, which is foreseen in the proposal, is about the security, because security is also automatically checked for all proposals, and also based on self-assessment, and checks based on your self-assessment may trigger further inquiries later on. Next slide, please. Let's have a look at the evaluation of proposals, because here we have some specific rules for EU-Rail 2024 call. So if your proposal is admissible and eligible, of course, then it will have to be evaluated. It will have to be evaluated by an independent, by a panel of independent external experts who will evaluate your proposals against ranked against three criteria, which are the same criteria that we have for all Horizon Europe proposals. These three criteria are excellence, impact, and quality and efficiency of implementation. But in EU-Rail's call, you need to have a look in particular at Annex 8 of the EU-Rail annual work program, 2024 work program, where you find some additional sub-criteria, we can call them like that, for each of them. So, for instance, for excellence, what is added in our case, is quality of the proposed joint activities to achieve the deliverables. For the criterion impact, what we add is that quality and credibility of the action to contribute achieving the EU-Rail Master Plan objectives and the expected impact of the EU-Rail multi-annual work program. And for the third criterion, quality and efficiency of implementation, the sub-criteria is appropriateness of the project management structure and quality of the proposed coordination. Next slide, please. And then how these independent external experts evaluate? Well, they have to score for the criteria, for each criterion. And for full applications, each criterion will be scored out of 5. There is a threshold for individual criteria, which is 3. The overall threshold applying to the sum of the 3 individual scores will be 10. And then to determine the ranking of the innovative actions, the score for impact will be given a weight of 1.5. Weighting is only used for the ranking. Proposals that pass the individual threshold and the overall threshold will be considered for funding, of course, within the limits of the available call budget. Next slide, please. Time to grant. So since the deadline for the submission of your proposals, there are around 5 months before you get information about the outcome of the evaluation. And then 3 months later, so in total 8 months after the deadline of the submission, you are invited to sign the grant. Next slide, please. And I think it is the last one. Grant agreement, how does it look like? Well, we use the corporate structure of Horizon Europe. Grant agreement preparation and its management is fully electronic from the signature until the end. And all the communication flows via the funding and tenders portal. You should pay special attention to the specific Annex 5, where you can find some important rights and obligations, such as security, in terms of security, ethics, values, for instance, gender mainstreaming, IPR, intellectual property right, communication, dissemination, open science, and visibility. And there are also some specific rules for carrying out the action. And I think that's all. Yes, because this is general information that we have already mentioned several times. You can always contact us and send your questions, and we will reply them as soon as possible. Thank you very much. That's all on my side. So I think it's over to.
Thank you.
Sandro.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna. Just to introduce, just before introducing Sandro, as you have seen, those are largely the rules of Horizon Europe. The reason why we have increased the possibility for you to have more pages in explaining your projects, activities, is also because what Sandro will present to you on how you will have to structure your proposal under lump sum. That usually results in a greater number of work packages, and therefore you need to have usually more pages. These are a maximum, so it will be really up to you. And then the specificities of the additional sub criteria that Anna mentioned, it's really just to reflect the part of our program that needs to be addressed as well. So now let me give the floor to my colleague Sandro Benidio, which will, as a financial officer in Euro-Rail joint undertaking, will present to you the financial guidance.
Good morning, everyone. So I will now proceed with explaining some of the key financial guidelines involved in EU-Rail calls, as George stated. If you can pass the next slide, please. So we'll go through the 3 key points of the relation between EU-Rail and Horizon program. First, we'll look at the model grant agreement and the lump sum grants. Then we'll discuss the budget table used in the calculation of the lump sum. And finally, go through the dedicated member contribution tables. Next slide. So EU-Rail calls work with lump sum projects. We opted for the lump sum approach in order to simplify the grant signature and the reporting process. Lump sum removes all obligations on actual costs and financial ex post audits. Access to the program becomes easier, simpler, and more focused on results instead of financial management. The project is divided in work package, which will only be paid once they are fully completed. Next slide. So the main difference between lump sum and the standard grant agreements are that despite all the simplifications, funding on reimbursement costs stayed very complex and error-prone. The lump sum project funding removes all obligations on actual cost reporting and financial ex post audits, which is a major reduction in administrative burden. The access to the program becomes easier, especially for small organizations and newcomers. There is also more focus on performance with a shift from focus on financial management to focus on the scientific technical content of the project. Next slide. So concerning the submission phase of the lump sum grants, all proposals must contain a detailed budget table. Applicants should provide this through the dedicated Excel table. This table contains all information concerning the project financials, and the table automatically generates the breakdown of the lump sum per beneficiary and per work package. Next slide, please. So again, the detailed budget table must comply with the basic eligibility conditions. When filling it in, the participants must ensure that the best value for money is demonstrated and be free from any conflict of interests, especially when it concerns purchases and subcontracting. If the budget table contains ineligible costs, the grants may be reduced by the GU. Next slide. So I mentioned subcontracting before. So the basic principles of subcontracting are and must be ensuring the best value for money, no conflict of interest, and subcontracting only a limited part of the action. All this is still compulsory as in the normal grants. In case of breach, as stated before, the GU may reduce the grant. The estimated cost of each subcontract does not have to be included in Annex 1 or 2, but it must be indicated in the financial budget table that we are supplying. And next slide, please. So again, just to state why we choose the lump sum grants, lump sum represents a major reduction of administrative burden, so no more CFS, no more ex post audits. It's more focused on performance. Payments don't depend on a successful outcome, but on the completion of activities. And the applicants are free to define the lump sum in their proposal, but the lump sum chosen must be justified by the resources mobilized. So just to give a brief summary is that the main difference is that we will work based on work packages. Lump sum works based on work package, and the participants are reimbursed when the work package is completed. If there's no completion of the work package, there's no reimbursement. Next slide, please. So the lump sum, with the new lump sum approach regarding keeping records, what do we request? We need you to keep technical documents, publications, prototypes, deliverables, and any document proving that the work was done as detailed in Annex 1. We don't request any more timesheets, payslips, contracts, travel invoices, and actual costs. It's important to refer that these documents should, however, be kept in case of an eventual technical ex post audit, as foreseen in Article 20 of the lump sum model grant agreement. Next slide. So now for some specific provisions on the lump sum proposals, starting with personal costs. Next slide. Regarding the personal cost, the main differences with the H2020 program is the discontinuation of the different formulas applied. In Horizon, it's only requested the use of a single corporate daily rate and calendar year approach. So you'll define a daily rate for your for the personal month, and this rate will be applied across the board on the work packages. Next slide. So the daily rate calculation is done per calendar year from January to December. For calculating the daily rate for any possible solution, you should use a formula, the given formula. The formula is actual personal costs during the months of the reporting period divided by the maximum declarable day equivalents. Next slide. With what concerns indirect costs, are costs that are indirectly linked to the action implementation. For Horizon, they are calculated in the same way as in the previous program, meaning a flat rate of 25% of the eligible direct costs, except subcontracting and financial support to third parties. The only new introduction is the possibility to accept actual indirect costs from internally invoiced goods and services. Next slide. So this is what I was talking before, so you can pass the next slide. Concerning equipment costs, they should be declared and depreciation can be accounted for, and it is considered eligible. In the budget table, there will be a dedicated tab to help you calculate the depreciation. Next slide, please. Next slide. So now I'll talk about the evaluation. So the evaluation in a lump sum grant is similar to the standard grants. Proposals are evaluated according to the Horizon Europe procedures and with the help of independent experts. The key elements being evaluated was already discussed before are excellence, impact, quality and efficiency of the implementation. The independent experts will assess whether the resources proposed and the split of the lump sum share allows for achieving the activities. They will assess if the budget estimate is accurate and appropriate in view of the proposed resources for each work program. They will also assess the budget estimate on the basis of relevant statistical data, and they will verify if it includes a declaration of beneficiaries using their own accounting practices. Next slide, please. So talking about ex post controls. So in what respect to ex post controls, we don't have financial audits anymore, but there's the possibility of ex post technical reviews. They will check the proper implementation of the action and check compliance with other obligations of the grants, such as IPR obligations related to third parties, and others like ethics or EU visibility and funding. Next slide. So now I'll talk about the dedicated financial budget table. The table is composed of several tabs. There's an instruction tab, there are several summary tabs, and there are individual tabs for each participant. One of the key tabs is the instructions. All applicants that submit the detailed budget file, I advise you to read the instructions attentively before initiating encoding the table. They are quite thorough and will help with you finishing this task. Next slide, please. So after reading the instructions, you should start by encoding the information in the BE list. Here you should add all the beneficiaries and affiliated entities and choose the respective funding rate. Once completed, you should click the button Apply Changes, and the table will now include a tab for each beneficiary together with their respective affiliated entities. Next slide. After filling the beneficiaries tab, you should fill in the work packages list. In this tab, you should add all the work packages defined for the project and their description. Once completed, you should click on the button Apply Changes, same as before, and the table will now be ready to complete with the financial information from all beneficiaries and their affiliated entities. Next slide. So once the two main tabs, the beneficiary list and the work package list, have been filled in, you should go into the individual sheets. These individual sheets include one separated section for each work package that were previously encoded and for each affiliated entity pertaining to this member. Only the yellow cells can be filled in, and all the calculations are all on predefined formulas. For each work packages, beneficiaries will enter estimations under each cost category, and at the end of the sheet, you'll find a summary with the information concerning all work packages and the total cost foreseen for each beneficiary or affiliated entity. Next slide. So as discussed before, there is a tab for depreciation. This is a tool where you can calculate the depreciation cost of any equipment to be used in the action. This will help you define the amounts to be added in the individual beneficiary sheets concerning depreciation. Next slide. So once everything has been filled in, the list for beneficiaries, the list for work package, and the individual sheets for each beneficiary, you will then be able to consult the summary tab. So these summary tabs will give you an overview of the project in financial terms. So the summary per work package, which is the one visible here, will give you an estimation of costs for all beneficiaries for each work package. In this tab, after completing the beneficiary sheets, you'll find the summary of the participation, again, as all beneficiaries and the work package in the project. So next tab. Next slide, please. So in the tab BE work package person months will give you the number of person months each beneficiary plans to allocate to each work package. So this will give you summarize what is the effort involved in the project. Next slide. And the lump sum breakdown, which should be the most important one, is generated automatically on the basis of the individual costs, estimation of each beneficiary that were introduced in the individual tabs. This should be the starting point for filling in the Annex 2 with a clear description on how much funding will be allocated per beneficiary and their affiliated entities. Of course, it is impacted by the funding rate declared on the first tab of the beneficiary list. Next slide. So when filling in the Annex 2, the lump sum breakdown should be used from the budget proposal table for the calculations of the requested grant amount. This will serve as a baseline for your requested grant amounts, the financial contributions, and the own resources. It's important to remember that financial contributions can only be done by EU-Rail private members through ICOP. Own resources are exclusive for non-EU-Rail members and represent the non-funded part of their activities. The total estimated income is the sum of all these categories. Next slide. So I will now talk about the specific provisions of the EU-Rail private members when they join the calls for proposals. So Annex 1 Part B, the estimated members' contributions. This part is only for EU-Rail members. The members should fill in a dedicated table to account for their contributions on ICOP and IK. These contributions should have a leverage effect of 1.263, meaning that for each euro that the GU contributes, the private member shall contribute €1.263 of in-kind contributions of operational activities, of course, and or in-kind contributions of additional activities. Any discrepancy to this ratio should be well and duly justified. Next slide. The table is as shown in the screen. As previously stated, the totally eligible costs correspond to the formula €1 of co-funding plus 1.263 euros of in-kind contributions. This 2.263 ratio is the baseline for all EU-Rail grants open to the members. The table is quite simple. You should consolidates the information from all members participating in the project. In the first column, the members should be listed. The second column should contain the information concerning the requested EU contribution. The third column must have the total, the amount of the total contributions on top of the funding, and the fourth column will calculate the ratio in an indicative way, so you can control if it complies with the threshold of 2.263. The final column, of course, serves for any comments or justifications that are that can be included. To the next slide, please. So in the topic, in the joint topic with the SNS, For EURail members, everything stays the same. For SNS, 3 members, however, the total in-kind contributions of other members are indicative only. SNS members should indicate both ICOP and IK together and should also fill the 2 tabs concerning the IK plan and the IK categories on their special table that was created for this joint topic. And next slide, please. So the non-members contribution, the total indicative budget in terms of total project costs for the project stemming from this topic is indicatively 68 million. And this is built on an expected leverage effect of 5 times the total maximum EU contribution of 13.5 million. The additional leverage effect in this case for non-members of the SNSJU is expected to be reached through either a reduction on the co-funding rate and or including the actual external investments on a national or private funding. In the table shown, you can see 2 ways of applying this leverage effect, meaning that if you have a let's say 20,000 of grant contribution and you only have 9 unfunded eligible costs, you should have an additional leverage effect of 71,000. In the same way, if you have a 20 contribution and you already have 80,000 on unfunded eligible costs, your leverage effect should be 0 because the total will correspond to 5 times the maximum grant amount. Next slide. So this was the overview of the financial guidelines for participating in the call. Now we'll be open to a Q&A session if for any questions that you should have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandro. I think all was clear. We just had one question which I have just replied about the pre-financing, that we will have, yes, a pre-financing. Indicatively, this pre-financing will be around 50% of the EU funds, but this will be confirmed and also checked in function of the project during the grant agreement preparation phase. And of course, with the project that has been selected for funding, and then its execution will happen after the signature of the grant. So I see no more questions. There was apparently some issues with sync of the slides, but I think this depends on the machine you're using rather than our system, because I see that here the slides are going on in a normal way. I don't see any more questions, and this is not bad because then we are catching up a little bit to the time. We are going towards 12, and at 12 we said that we will start our matchmaking session. I'm trying to see if there are more questions. No. So then I would suggest that we can already start the matchmaking session. I would like to thank all the colleagues for their presentation. And for the matchmaking session, you will need to log out and log in into a new link, which will be provided. Actually, it has been just provided in the chat. So for those of you that are interested in attending these matchmaking sessions, and there will be also some pitches and some presentation from those of you that have agreed and that they want to present their idea to the other participants. So having said this, I would like to thank all of you as well for having attending this info session, but especially I would like to thank for starting to build up project consortia and starting to build up project proposal. Try to make the best that you can. Really, it's a competitive project proposal, so the more you can convince and explain with facts how you will handle all those different expected outcomes that has been presented to you, and as well the scope for the research and innovation activities, the more chances you will have to be selected for funding. And a particular attention, obviously, to the rules that has been presented to you. So everything needs to be filled in correctly, including the Excel file on the budgetary part. That, as you know, will be also part of in-depth evaluation in this lump sum scheme approach. So having said this, I would like to again wish you a successful bidding in our call for proposal and have also a nice matchmaking session. Thank you very much. And I close here this session, and you can try to log in to the other one. So everybody can copy the link in the chat and log in the next one.